Jackie, give me a minute.
Hey, fellas, be hella flunky over here. Hey, Jackie. Nice donkey, Jackie. Why don't you lick his feet too, Jackie?
Cut that, will you? Knock it off.
Say, Chip, what we gonna do tonight?
One thing we're gonna do is split up. The red car come along, we'll be in trouble. Come on, Jackie.
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, April the 25th, 1958. A young Korean university student by the name of In Ho Oh leaves his room to mail a letter. It is shortly after 9 o'clock.
Boy, they must have worked him over like crazy.
Love of God. Is he alive?
Yeah.
What you got, Pete? Got any leads?
Got this lady over here.
What's your name?
Millie Thompson?
You the one who called the police?
Yes, I was. We was watching television when we heard the yelling.
All right. Did you see anybody?
Well, there were a lot of them, boys from right around here.
Who's there?
It's the police. I'm Sergeant Werder, Juvenile Division. Michael home?
Michael ain't in no trouble, officer. He ain't done nothing.
No, don't take on, Miss Fisher. We just want to ask him some questions. Hi, Michael.
Hi. Don't worry, Mom. He's got nothing on me.
I want to ask you some questions, Michael. Come on.
Questions about what?
Come on.
I ain't been in no trouble.
You haven't?
No, sir.
Never been arrested?
Who, me?
We're talking about you. October '57. Were you arrested last year for assault with a deadly weapon?
I don't remember.
Your name's Charles, isn't it?
This is Chip Connolly.
Call you Chip?
He was first arrested at the age of 9. This is Sergeant Werter. It's not the first time he's had to deal with Connolly. He knows these kids, and most of them have run into him. As far as the policeman could learn, there was no reason for the beating that had been given to the young man found unconscious on a West Philadelphia street. The victim was a Korean boy, a student at the University of Pennsylvania. In Sergeant Werter's book, the incident was a brutal, senseless act. He had seen this kind of thing before, too often.
Okay, if that's the way you want it, Ship. But let me tell you something. You're in real trouble this time. I want to give it to you straight. That boy you go last night, he's dead. You still want to be tough?
What's the angle? Why you ask me all those questions, huh? You got it all down there. Why you twisting me?
There were other boys waiting to be questioned. Michael Fisher had no police record. George Lang had been picked up once for truancy. Jackie Cook, 2 violations of curfew. Bart Lewis, assault and battery, 2 charges. Freddie Madden had been up twice for burglary, once for receiving stolen goods. A verdict of first-degree murder was returned against the first boy to be tried. The jury voted the death penalty. A month later, Richard Adams was brought to trial. Most people were convinced that all of the boys were guilty.
All rise. In the name of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, this court is declared open. Be seated.
Are you ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor. The Commonwealth moves for trial, Your Honor, in the matter of Commonwealth versus Richard Adams, charged with murder in Bill of Indictment number 653, May Sessions, 1958.
Are you ready to proceed for the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. With submission to the court, and ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Richard Adams is charged with the crime of murder. Our statute, which makes murder...
They were all there. The judge,
All murder...
the assistant district attorney who had successfully prosecuted the case against Chip Connolly and was scheduled to try the other boys.
by any other kind of...
The defendant, Richard Adams, he was 17. Mr. Adams, his father.
shall be committed in the...
Ki Hong-o, uncle of the deceased. He was one of the first to testify.
Your full name and address?
Ki Hong-o, 3910 Hawthorne Street.
Place your right hand on the Bible. You swear that the testimony given by you in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Be seated.
Mr. O, I want to cause you as little anguish as possible, so I'll go directly to the point. Now, you knew the deceased, did you not?
Yes, he was my nephew.
And he lived with you and your wife in your apartment?
That is true.
Tell me, how long had you known the deceased?
I had known my nephew since his childhood. But my brother's family and I, my brother is the father of In-ho, we were thrown together in the flight from Incheon when the communists of North Korea invaded us. That was in 1950. I came to know my nephew very well during those years.
In-ho was in his teens when his family fled to the south. All but their most precious possessions had been left behind. It was 200 weary miles to Busan and safety. In-ho's family had been refugees before. Just 3 years earlier, they had fled from North Korea to the capital city of Seoul to escape communist persecution. In Busan, the O family bounced back. Ki Byung, In-ho's father, set up a small textile shop. He started with a single knitting machine and some cotton yarn. Piece by piece, additional used equipment was put to work in the little factory. In the face of what seemed to be overwhelming odds, the O family, like thousands of others, put down their roots once more and held on. During the Korean War, entire congregations of Christians had fled before the communist advance. Many of the congregations remained intact, and now resumed their life together in the South. Missionaries from American churches had helped to establish the church in Korea. Now they redoubled their efforts in the difficult post-war years. In-ho himself was a third-generation Christian. Sunday school was taught in temporary buildings. God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. In-ho was a member of the Youngdo Presbyterian Church, where he became the youngest deacon. He saw the future of Korea in the faces of the youngsters he taught. The hills that rim the Busan harbor teemed with refugees from the north. In-ho and one of his friends from the church became concerned about the plight of a people so violently displaced. Thousands had returned to their homes elsewhere in Korea, but thousands remained in Busan to start all over again. Many of them were from North Korea, often separated from family and friends. For them, there was no return. In-ho was especially interested in young people. Uprooted family life, homelessness, and insecurity had bred an alarming increase in juvenile crime. Today, Busan, like any other place, is a place where young people make decisions. They can decide to visit its unsavory neighborhoods, to patronize its night spots. They can become its delinquents, its idlers, its beat generation. Busan is a place where slicky boys, the juvenile burglars of Korea, decide to pilfer and rob. In-ho decided to go to school. When he left for America, he had already established a good record at the National University in Seoul, Korea. He would be living with an uncle who was enrolled in graduate school. In-ho was setting off for a place called Philadelphia, city of brotherly love.
When In-ho came to live with us, he had decided to study in the field of political science. He had been accepted by the graduate school of the University of Pennsylvania. That was in 1957.
In his seminars, In-ho studied the forces in society which produce crime. Gradually, a dream took shape. He decided to take his new knowledge and skills back to Korea and devote his life to the welfare of juvenile delinquents. He expressed his ideas in letters to friends at home.
My nephew spoke seldom, although when he did speak, it was with confidence, for he rehearsed his thoughts carefully beforehand. He was always anxious to avoid arguments. I think it is fair to say that he did not want to injure anyone, not just those he loved or liked, but people he had just met, complete strangers.
While Richard Adams was being tried, Chip Connolly was waiting for the outcome of his appeal from the death penalty. 6 of the 9 boys under indictment were not yet 18 years of age. The state had set aside their juvenile status. They were all to be tried as adults. 2 of the boys were detained at the Youth Study Center until their 16th birthday. One of them was Michael Fisher.
Sit down, Michael. Michael, do you know who I am?
Yes, sir, you call the chaplain.
That's right. I'd like to help you, Mike.
What can you do, mister?
I'll do anything I can. Tell me about yourself. I've talked to your parents, Michael, just yesterday. Your mother is much better.
Yes, sir.
She says not to worry about her.
The chaplain who talked with Michael Fisher works at the detention facility full-time. He's employed and supported by the church.
Your mother wanted you to know, Michael, that she prays for you.
Is that gonna help?
Yes. I believe God answers prayer. Don't you?
Yes, sir.
Do you know Tommy Taylor?
Sure.
I met him just as I was leaving your home. He lives near you?
Yeah, next door.
He tells me you play basketball together.
Sure. We're on the same team at the West Philly Boys Club. We were, I mean.
You're pretty good the way I hear it.
I guess so. Last season, anyway. Not as good as Tommy. He's fast.
This up of potatoes, honey.
Tommy Taylor had grown up with Michael Fisher.
Tommy, not your new tie.
That's all right, Mom. It's an old spot. It's dry now.
Why hadn't Tommy been at 39th and Hawthorne the night In-Ho was killed? The Taylors weren't immune to the evils of city living, except for certain choices made by his parents, his friends, and himself. Tommy, too, might have been in jail.
Thank you, Tommy.
You know pas de quoi.
Listen, it talks in French.
Hush, children. John.
Daddy, will you pray for Michael?
Yes, Sarah. Our Father, bless this food to our use, and us to thy service. We ask thy blessing on Michael and his mother and father in this difficult time. Lift them up by thy love. Let them know that thou art never closer to thy children than when we were in great trouble. We ask in the name of Jesus, our blessed Savior. Amen. Put your bunny down there and pull your plate in.
There's no simple explanation for the differences between the choices made here at 3902 Dayton Street and the choices made next door. Tommy and Michael Fisher had a lot in common. They were the same age. They went to the same school. They played on the same team. The Taylors and the Fishers live in a kind of neighborhood that some people thoughtlessly call a jungle. A cliche like that can obscure important facts about the deteriorated parts of a big city. What's this neighborhood like? For one thing, it's a place where fire escapes and stone steps take the place of grass and rolling hills. It's a population pocket of low-income families, swollen by the influx of thousands of newcomers from the south, and isolated in an old part of town that had already been given over to crumbling mortar and rotting wood. This is a trade school where beginning students learn how to steal hubcaps from a parked car. Later, they'll graduate to stealing the car itself. This is a place where bored and restless teenagers make like grown-up toughs. Why is it that some kids will play like crazy under a simple backboard, while others get their kicks out of snatching a purse for 68 cents? Why is it the same boy who has a steady job after school may be picked up for illegal entry? One of the agencies that are looking for answers to these questions is the church. Churches provide, wherever they can, a healthy atmosphere of recreation and fun. They've devised a variety of activities to meet the needs of idle hands and eager minds. But the church has more to offer than a social calendar. Church leaders know this. The church's influence reaches outside its walls. The man who has just spoken at this luncheon club is an honored judge and a churchman.
Things have changed here for the Negro, and for the better. Not as much as some of us would like, but then we face a tremendously big job.
Yes, but it's a job of our own making. You can't make second-class citizens out of a large segment of the population, regardless of their color, and segregate them for years and then overnight expect them to behave like saints.
The church also reaches into the life of the campus. University pastors, supported by the church, try to keep students sensitized to social issues. For some University of Pennsylvania students, the implications of In-Ho's death were immediate and personal.
I just can't shake the idea that it didn't have to be In-Ho who got rolled. It could have been me, Ed. I've walked home through that district late at night many a time. These kids just rolled the first guy who came along. This didn't have anything to do with race. It could have happened to anybody.
Mr. O, when did you last speak to your nephew?
On the evening of April the 25th.
Can you remember the time?
It was a little after 9 o'clock. He left the house to mail a letter in the mailbox across the street. He did not return.
In-ho-oh died in Presbyterian Hospital just 8 minutes after arrival. The story hit the Philadelphia streets on April 26th. Across the international dateline in Korea, it was Sunday. The Sunday papers of Busan carried the story. The father of In-ho had not yet received the trans-Pacific cable from Philadelphia that was to tell him of his son's death. He first learned of it in the Sunday paper. Only a few days earlier, the family had received a letter from the boy. He had written of his plans to return to Korea and take up his work on behalf of underprivileged youth.
He was like a son to us, Mr. Adams. But In-ho is dead. And now it is your son that I'm thinking of. These people are angry. There is hate here and a smell of vengeance.
One side, please.
The verdict was about to be returned in the case of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania versus Richard Adams, Bill of Indictment number 653.
They're going to burn this one.
Why not? He's guilty of sin.
All right, say he's guilty. You electrocute those boys, you don't solve the problem. They're being punished for more than their guilt. They're taking the rap for the rest of us, too.
Members of the jury, have you reached a verdict?
We have.
Your Honor, the jury have agreed. Shall the verdict be taken?
Let the verdict be taken.
Jurors rise. Prisoner rise. Jurors look upon the prisoner. Prisoner look upon the jurors. Members of the jury, how do you find? Do you find the prisoner at the bar guilty of the crime of murder wherein he stands indicted, or not guilty?
The verdict that was pronounced in the case of Richard Adams was heard by only a few people. But another verdict had been rendered, which was heard across 2 nations. It was reached not by members of a jury, but by the family of In-ho-oh. The Christian faith of this family was no once-a-week gesture to be made in church on Sunday mornings. It was a way of life. Their verdict was based not on the law of the land, but on the law of love. They sat down together and wrote a letter. It was directed to the people of Philadelphia.
I will now read to you what we have decided to write. We could not believe the news was true, for the shock was so unexpected and sad. We are sad now, not only because of In-ho's unachieved future, but also because of the unsaved souls and paralyzed human nature of the murderers. We thank God that He has given us a plan whereby our sorrow is being turned into Christian purpose. Our family has met together, and we have decided to petition that the most generous treatment possible within the laws of your government be given to those who have committed this criminal action, without knowing what it would mean to him who has been sacrificed, to his family, to his friends, and to his country. In order to give evidence of our sincere hope contained in this petition, our whole family has decided to save money to start a fund to be used for the religious, educational, vocational, and social guidance of the boys when they are released. About the burial of the physical body of him who has been sacrificed, we hope that you can spare a piece of land in your country and bury it there. It is our sincere hope that thus we will remember your people and you will remember our people, and that both you and we will more vitally sense an obligation for the better guidance of juvenile delinquents. We think this is a way to give life to the dead and to the murderers, and to keep you and us closer in Christian love and fellowship. May God bless you, your people, and particularly the boys who killed our son and kinsman.
In response to this epistle from the Koreans, the Presbytery of Philadelphia provided the burial site in the cemetery of historic Old Pine Street Church. And today the body of the young Korean lies there in honored rest. But the harsh and bitter problems will not be buried. They cannot be laid to rest in a quiet historic churchyard. The problems of lawlessness and delinquency remain. No one knows it better than those charged with administering the law. The problem of a public misinformed about race challenges our entire educational system. At the same time, the church is challenged to bring its unique message of forgiveness and redemptive love to everyone, regardless of his condition of life. Christians everywhere have been challenged to take the claims of their faith at face value. To turn sorrow into Christian purpose. Today, nobody knows whether this boy shall have died in vain. The family of In-ho-oh have spoken to us in an epistle from the Koreans. What shall we say to them?